prosperity and abundance through the Most High Elohim. I am Mrs.Melaninreigns, and it is absolutely an honor and a pleasure to finally be back with you all. So, today I just want to speak on something that has been such a heavy topic, not only in my life, but I think in the overall collective right now. I think that a lot of people are becoming more aware of narcissism, narcissistic abuse, and it is imperative that we continue to educate one another so that we may free ourselves from all forms of these abusive relationships. So, this video doesn't have a set direction, but it was placed on my spirit to really share some things. And I know that we're in times where it may seem like people may be overusing the word narcissism. However, I would like to point out that we as a collective have been programmed for years up until this point. We as a collective have been programmed for years. Okay? So, as a collective, we're experiencing narcissistic abuse from the system that we're under and we live in. And I don't think that a lot of people realize that from the schools to the jobs to the creation of social media, the media itself, all of those things are fragments of a narcissistic system. And so I want to take my time with this because it's a heavy topic. I don't think a lot of people even realize that they've been through narcissistic abuse, because I knew that narcissism existed, but up until a few months ago, I didn't even realize what I was going through. I wasn't even able to put a finger on or a name on what it is that has been happening to me since since birth. Because once you realize and you unveil what may be like the biggest narcissist in your life, or the one that brings your attention to narcissism overall, which is usually a romantic partner for a lot of people, you'll realize this energy has been following you since birth. And I definitely want to cover the spirit behind narcissism. There is a heavy and very real spirit behind narcissism. And I know that we're in a better place as a collective with accepting the realities of spiritual warfare. So I feel comfortable in sharing that if you are an anointed individual, and a lot of people call this empaths or whatever you want to call it. If you are a anointed individual with a high calling, and that's not to say that we all aren't born to be that way, because we are, but there are certain individuals, like they say, many are called but few are chosen. Okay, so take out, when you hear me speaking about these things, so I'm going to go into the different names of the spirits and all of those things. Please take out all of the religious, not religious beliefs, but like all of those negative perceptions of religion, spirituality. Just try to take that out of it and just hear from an open-minded point of view, because a lot of people will reject the knowledge or reject the word because they feel like it's only exclusive to religion. And that's something that got me tripped up myself, okay? So I want to talk about the spirit behind narcissism. This is a low vibrational, demonic. So when we say low vibrational and demonic, those are similar terms. It's just spiritual, so-called spiritual but not religious people say um, low vibrational, but it's a demonic spirit behind it. It's a very wicked spirit, and people need to be able to acknowledge it for what it is, because beyond psychology, we are dealing with a very low vibrational spirit. Okay, so narcissism, I'll go through a few of the traits before we get a little bit deeper with what I want to talk about. So, by definition, on the internet, I'm going to run down the traits really quickly and then we'll get into them. Exaggerated self importance, or an exaggerated sense of self importance, excessive need for admiration, superficial and exploitive relationships, lack of empathy, identity disturbance, difficulty with attachment and dependency, chronic feelings of emptiness and boredom, and high risk for suicidal thoughts or suicidal attempts. So, in order to be diagnosed as a narcissist, you would have to have, I want to say, I'm not even going to include that. There would have to be a lineup of these traits. So if you might identify with maybe one or two, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a full-on narcissist. But I would like to say that it does mean you are on your way to narcissism, because digital narcissism is rising because of social media, because of people building their own personal brands and businesses. Even within the spiritual community, I had a woman who I I had love for this sister. I had love for this sister, and as you know, if you've been on my channel before, I used to do card readings. I used to do channeled messages, and I used to do things in regards to twin flames. All of those things. I am on a different path right now. I've evolved from that situation. However, one of the women that definitely helped me evolve from that situation was a reader in the community who I had love for her, like she was a big sister. And this woman is probably like, I don't know, maybe 10, 15, 20 years older than me. And on my Instagram page, I posted something, and she came in my comments, all caps, insinuating that I stole that piece of knowledge from her, which I didn't, because I had to send her screenshots of how on my Facebook, because before I came to YouTube, I was on Facebook, and I had to send her screenshots of the fact that, sis, I've been talking about this for years, since I was basically like 16. And there's something called the collective mind, where at times we are in a body, right? As people, we are cells in a body. Think of it that way. And things come to the collective mind. It doesn't mean somebody copied off of you. And I do know that people copy directly off of other people. I don't like that spirit. So I don't deal in that spirit. I would not take something from someone and not at least give them credit, especially if we're friends on social media, especially if I support and look up to you. But, you know, it was basic knowledge. I wasn't the only one who had said that before. Other people had said it, because, like I said, we are cells in a body, and there is a certain thing called the collective mind. But I was disgusted by her behavior, because it pointed out to me that in the past, what my intuition was telling me about her was true, because even when I would support her on her live videos, I could see that she had disdain for me because of my success on YouTube, which I did not even intend to have. The only reason why I got the subscribers and the amount of people that came to my page was because I put out a video where I was, you know, really releasing my emotions, and I was being my authentic self, and a lot of people could resonate with that. So because she had started YouTube before I did, not knowing that I had already started doing readings back on Facebook, I was just new to YouTube. I wasn't new to readings in general. But I was so happy when I found her, because I was like, yeah, I want to support another sister. And I had bought products from this woman, genuinely supporting her, genuinely sending people to her page. But when she did that was a red flag for me, because I already started to feel this disconnect with the community of readers and stuff like that, because I had clients telling me about certain behaviors from other readers that I didn't approve of. And I also was seeing this superficial takeover of what I initially thought was a good thing. Because I definitely initially thought, that spirituality within itself, which that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But I really came upon this path with a genuine heart and spirit. Okay? So I've learned more about who I truly am and where I really belong. But as a young woman, I had every right to search and try out things, and I went down a path that I don't regret. I don't regret. It played a part, and I'm able to see things from a different vantage point based on where I've been. So anyways, this reader really, she really took it there to where I was like, nah, these people in this community it's not all right. It's not what I thought it was. Not everybody is on this path with a genuine heart and spirit. Some of these people are on this path with this need to be glorified, this need to be seen as something. Because the way she treated me, when you accused me of doing something like that, the way you treated me was as if I don't have my own intuition, as if I don't have my own direction, as if I have to feed off of somebody's information in order to be able to speak or do what I do. And that is not who I am. And it let me know how she perceives the people that subscribes to her, as if they are all brainless followers of her, as if she is some type of high priestess or deity that we all have to, I can't deal with that type of energy. Because anybody who's been a client of mine in the past, they know that I always let them know there is nothing that I have that you cannot acquire. You have everything you need within you. You do not have to go to anybody to receive what you perceive to free you or enlighten you or whatever the case may be. We all have it within us. Is what we do with that. When you continue to close yourself off from it, then you have to depend on the outside world. But we all have the ability to be in that energy where we draw straight from what people call intuition, what I call the Ruha HaKodesh, what people perceive as, something told me, whatever you want to call it, right? So that was a big red flag for me. That wasn't my first encounter with something like that. And I wouldn't full on go on to call her a narcissist, but that was a red flag for me that I needed to seek a little further. So with this exaggerated sense of self, right, there's this feeling of superiority to others, accompanied by fantasies of unlimited success, money, beauty, etc. So these things are not always limited to people who are, or people who have a lot of money, or people who have a large following. These are also your average Joes. Narcissists are not always super beautiful or super handsome in the eyes of the world. These people, it comes and it is built from trauma. It's built from family iniquities. These things, and like I said, we live in a narcissistic society that has programmed the collective through school, through their jobs, through social media, through the media itself, to be narcissistic. Everything that is being placed upon society right now is to further the narcissistic hold society has on us. Okay? So that is in regards to the exaggerated sense of self-importance, where there's these fantasies of unlimited success, money, beauty, spiritual powers, all of those things. All of those things. People use spirituality as a weapon now. They use spirituality as a weapon now. And that's what taught me that if your spirituality is not anchored in a discipline, in the discipline, it becomes something else. It becomes something else. Okay. So excessive need for admiration. Enraged when ignored by others, must be the center of attention. This is also the people who listen. And we all to some extent may have embarked upon this, because I know that I used to want to know like why certain things weren't popular, right? But it shouldn't matter. So when I say enraged when ignored, this also is in regards to things like when people put out, say you're a musician and you put out music and it's like, oh, these people don't support me. Y'all are some haters. Everybody's a hater because they're not looking at your stuff. They're not sharing your stuff, or they're not viewing your stuff. If you're in that energy, you need to come away from that energy, because when you put something out, you need to be able to value yourself enough to where as though it's not about how it's going to be viewed. It's about the fact that this was placed upon your spirit. You released it. It brought you healing. And even if it's only 2 people that may view or hear it, you should be grateful. And your intention should be that it may do something for them. It may do something that may change their life, or may impact them in a positive light. Okay? Superficial and exploitive relationships acquires people for use or benefits. Relationships are built upon surface appearance. This is what we see going on with social media, when people don't even like one another, but they link up because of the views and likes they're going to get. They link up because they want to start a false movement based upon their influence online, based upon their influence by certificate or degree, whatever the case may be. Okay, and that's not limited to the examples I'm using, but I'm just using what is being placed upon my spirit to say. Relationships are built upon surface appearance. Also, these are people who get married to people just because they look good, or just because they have status, just because they have money. All of those things are rooted in narcissism. All of those things are rooted in narcissism. Okay? Lack of empathy. This associates with emotions. This is the popularized, cold-hearted, emotionless, hard up thing that everybody wants to portray nowadays. That is rooted in narcissism. It is okay to feel. It is necessary to feel. Emotions are energy in motion. They help you ascend on your own without you having to feed upon others. Lack of empathy will drive people to do all sorts of things for personal gain, for self-validation, just to get back at other people who no longer wants to deal with them. Okay? Identity disturbance. Sense of self easily threatened, retreats from or denies realities that challenge the false image. Sense of self is superficial. And when I say sense of self is superficial, it means like they go by what they have or what they look like. Again, social media. Social media, everybody wants to portray this luxury image. And there's nothing wrong with luxury. There's nothing wrong with self-care. There's nothing wrong with generational wealth. But that's not the case. People are literally getting on social media, portraying a front with the intention that, okay, if I do this, I'll get more followers. I'll gain more impact. I'll be able to do this. I'll be able to do that. Instead of really doing what they are guided to do because they want to, or it makes them happy. or this is their purpose. Okay, and sense of self easily threatened. These are people who are easily insulted. They're easily insulted. They easily feel disrespected. Retreats from or denies reality that challenge the false image. They disassociate with the circumstance. So even if something bad happens to them, you'll see these people talk about some of the most harsh situations with little to no emotion, because they don't even want to reflect on anything that challenges this grandiose sense of self that they have. Okay? Difficulty with attachment and dependency. Relies on outside validation or seeks validation, does things for how it makes them look in the eyes of others, cultivates relationships based upon that same phenomenon. Intimacy is superficial. They do it for sex, for money, for control, for ego boost. These are the women who brag about guys with money. All the guys they have with money, oh, he bought me this gift, he took me here, he took me there. I'm not talking about when your significant other is doing what they want to do for you or treating you or spoiling you. I'm talking about people who serial date. This is our new generation of women. I'm not excluding any aspect of myself from that part, because I fed into that type of rhetoric myself. Until I had to sit back and realize, look, that's not who you are. These are the guys who want to show off how many women they have. They want to talk about how many women they have. The rappers who are constantly talking about, oh, this woman, that woman, this woman, that one. That's not cool. It's all rooted in narcissism. The men who solely date women because they're young, or solely date women because they're a certain status symbol, it's rooted in narcissism. It's rooted in narcissism, okay? Chronic feelings of emptiness and boredom. These people constantly need stimulation, constantly seeking stimulation. Again, that goes back to attention, praise, likes, shares, sex, substances. And when they don't have those type of things, they feel bored, depressed, or restless. They can't even sit with themselves. That's why a lot of people think, a lot of women in relationships, they feel like, oh, they're not good enough for their partner. Or when the partner cheats, they feel like they feel like something's wrong with them. No, your partner has a problem. They can't sit with themselves. They're constantly in need for supply. That's a narcissist. That's rooted in narcissism. Okay? Anybody, if there is an issue with you, a partner who loves you will discuss that with you, and you guys will come to a solution, whether it be leaving each other alone or striving for a better relationship to evolve both partners. There's nothing wrong with you. There's something wrong with the partner who's cheating on you, whether it's a man or woman, because it happens to men as well. Statistics say that more men are narcissists only because men do not want to speak about it. Men are ashamed to speak about the abuse they've endured because they feel like it makes them weak. They don't want to be seen as a victim. Well, when it comes to narcissistic abuse, I don't view anybody as a victim. I don't view anybody as a victim. You are victorious in the fact that you're even seeing it for what it is, allowing yourself to come about that situation, no matter how it hurts. Okay? So let me get to this last point, and then I'll go off. And this video is going to be long, but I don't care. The last one, high risk for suicidal thoughts or suicide attempts. These are the partners who will guilt you with the fact that they're going to kill themselves. Too many people know this situation, myself included. They'll tell you they're going to kill themselves. Or like as soon as you point out something's wrong with them, all of a sudden they start crying. All of a sudden now they have emotion that they didn't want to show you beforehand. All of a sudden they're suddenly panicking. You suddenly get to see this so-called soft side of them. Okay? And to threaten someone with the fact that you're going to kill yourself and stuff like that, that's abusive. That's abusive, especially actually after you've already abused them. Okay, so that was the last point I wanted to cover. And those aren't the only things. We're constantly uncovering more things in regards to narcissism. Okay, so those aren't the only things, but those are definitions that I was able to pull offline just to go off of. But in regards to what I really want to discuss, because when you go through narcissistic abuse, these people, narcissists are relentless. They have no bounds. It usually stems from some deep wound or trauma that they've masked with an identity, a false identity. And I'm not just talking about having an online persona, because I have an online persona, but what I allowed myself to build off of is my vulnerability. Just sharing and being honest with people. I don't think the world realizes how much, if you just be honest about your circumstance, that boosts up what you're doing so much more, because you're going to meet people who have traveled down that path, and you're either helping them or they can help you, or both. And that's what we really need. These false personas that people are cultivating to become something else, it doesn't help heal. And the further you go, though, that's why they say the older a narcissist gets, the worse they get. For my circumstance, I was dealing with, and I would say am dealing with, a 44-year-old bully. In my early 20s, dealing with a 44-year-old bully. That's why I tell young women, you better be careful with this rhetoric that you're going upon, where you want to date these older men, or you're allowing these older men to come into your life. Because they come to kill, steal, and destroy. Okay? If they're not literally coming to kill you, they're coming to kill the spirit within you, your youthful spirit within you. Your ability to imagine, to achieve, to strive. They're coming to steal that youthfulness from you. They want to feed off of your energy. And I'm not talking about all older men. Majority. And destroy the life you are building for yourself. Now, I don't mind taking accountability for the part I played in this, because when I think about it, I tell myself now, like, what were you doing with this person who was, and this isn't, luckily for me, we were not in anything, I wasn't emotionally invested in this person, okay? And we'll get into my story on a later date. But luckily for me, we weren't in a relationship. So when it came to realizing these things, it wasn't as hard for me to get up out of the situation, because I wasn't emotionally invested in this person. But had I been, it could have been even worse, because the connection that we do have is what this person used, to just maliciously do things to me. Maliciously, intentionally. I cannot even begin to tell you guys how important it is that when you deal with something like this, you start planning your exit strategy. I commend people who were in marriages like this and were able to find their way out. I commend people who were in, even a basic relationship, living with people like this. And like I said earlier in the video, you'll realize that this energy has followed you since you were born. So the narcissists start off as our own parents, our own family members. Then we attract friends that are narcissists. Then we attract partners that are narcissists. We also, in that transition through those things, we inhabit narcissistic traits to either protect ourselves or end up full blooming into a narcissist as well. Because what do they say? If you can't beat them, join them. But I refuse. I really refuse. And what really helped me was knowing who I am and